Hey, hello everybody. Good afternoon. Good Wednesday, I better remember it, March 30th. It's my wife's birthday. Yes, thanks again for joining us for Shield Showing Live. Today, Jan will be talking about using the scan and cut in conjunction with your machine, the different ways that you can send the applique back and forth between the two machines. So really neat feature that Brother has that really separates them, their cutting machine, from everybody else. Again, last week we did a little drawing. I asked you to share, comment, and like our little live here. So had a lot of great people do that. Really appreciate it. So this is what I came up with for a prize. We got a Madeira quilt box thread.
Really nice cotton thread.
A nice set of thread. I don't even know how many are in there, but there's
a lot.
Quite a few. About 60 spools. So really nice. And we're going to draw it live, so you know that we're not cheating. So we're going to do it live. I'm not looking. I'm just going to draw a name, and some of them are sticking. So here, we'll go with this one. All right, Maria Bartolello. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, butchering it, but congratulations on that. Again, really nice set. So we will be in touch to get that over to you.
And she's local here.
She's local. Okay, so we don't have to ship it. But anyway, so yes, thank you again for all participating. And yes, stick around. Jan's going to do her thing, talk to you about all the new stuff. And I'll be back to say bye. So again, thanks for everything. Thanks for coming. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
And Maria. Oh, why don't you put Maria's name on there so you won't forget.
All right, there we go.
Okay. Yep, and I'll let her know. Okay, so today we're going to talk about, there's a lot of different ways to cut appliques with your scan and cut. But my favorite way is still the original way that you could do it. And it works even on the older 650s, the CM 650 machines. This only works on the dealer machines. It doesn't work on it, like if you bought one on Amazon or someplace. It doesn't work for those because they don't read PES files. But this is still my favorite way to do it. It's very fast. So you can cut an applique piece from any PES file that you already have. So like a lot of designs come with SVG files, which is a cut file. And the cut files are fine. I mean, the SVG files work fine. There's a couple things that I notice when I use them. Occasionally, they're a little bit too small. The design is a little bit too small. And then also, when they come into the scan and cut, like if you put them on a stick, often they group several things together, like several designs together. And then it makes it hard to separate them. To cut them like on separate different pieces of fabric. So that's one thing I do. So I don't use the SVG files generally. I'm gonna show you the method I usually use, and I find this very easy. And if you have a Brother or a Baby Lock, now this will work with the Brother and the Baby Lock machines. Okay. And there's a couple of exceptions, so I'll talk about that when I get into this. But we're going to start with the sewing machine. So I have a PES file that I digitized. So I'm going to show this to you before I turn the camera down. So I have this little design that I digitized some years ago and put it on a little baby onesie, Future Superstar. Okay, so this is an applique in the center, this little star. Okay, so this is just a simple little applique, but you can use the same method if you have multiple appliques in the same design. You can do the same method. You just have to go in and find each one of the placement lines. So you can have 10 appliques, and you can do this with all of them, and then use the one file to cut everything. So it's pretty cool the way this works with the scan and cut. So anyway, we're going to do this little heart or this little star today. Okay. All right, so let me turn the camera around. We're going to start with the machine. So I have my PES file. So let me get my camera turned over here. Let's see. Got to get the right one and the right microphone. So when I turn my head, you can still hear me. Okay. All right, can you still hear me okay? All right, so here's my embroidery machine. Now, I am using my Luminaire today just because the screen is larger and you can see better what I'm doing. Most of the machines will do this, okay? I did run across one of the new machines that it didn't work quite right. So if you happen to have a 3700D or a 1700E, it may not work quite right. And I'm going to contact somebody and see if we can figure out why it's not working correctly. And then it also, there's a couple of the older PRs that it didn't work on, like, oh, the PR 600, it doesn't work on that one. It's the way it reads colors or something. So, and I'm guessing that the 1700 and 3700 are the same issue. It's something with the colors, and I haven't figured that out yet. So I'm going to contact somebody about that for those of you who have that machine. But almost everybody will have a machine that this works on. This has worked, and it does work on the baby locks also. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I've got my design over here on a stick. And it's this little, it's a PES file of Future Superstar. So this is the way I do this, because then I can, any PES file I have, I can make it into a cut file, and I can cut and sew off the same file. So I think that's really neat that I can do that. So I'm going to go down here to my pocket, and I'm going to go find my USB stick first. And I've got my USB, and then here's the little design. Sorry, my computer's a little bit in the way here. I have a lot of stuff on this table, so I had to kind of make it work here. So here's my Future Superstar down here, okay? And I'm just going to bring it up, and I'm going to set it just like I'm going to sew it, okay? After I hit set, now I am on the edit screen. You know, most of the machines are going to have this edit screen. They all do. I'm going to hit edit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to find you know, on Applique, let's talk about Applique for a second. You know, Appliques have usually 3 sections. They have a placement line to tell you where the fabric's going to go. They have a tack down line that tacks your fabric, and then if you want to trim it in the hoop, you can. And then they have a covering stitch, okay, or like a satin stitch or whatever kind of covering stitch it has. So the trick is I want to cut from my placement lines, because those are going to be a slightly larger than the tack down lines normally, okay? So I want to cut from the first line, which is my placement line. So on this design, I know that my placement line happens on this one to be first, okay? So I'm going to tell the machine, I'm going to change the color. So here's the color thing, and almost all the machines have this. So here's the little color thread, and it's going to bring up all these color charts down here. And I want it to be on the embroidery one, which is the old original 60 colors that Brother had. And this is also embroidery in the baby lock machines, okay? So I am going to go down to the bottom of this little list. This is the original 60 colors that Brother had, okay? But if you notice down here at the bottom, there's 3 little colors down here. One of them has a pair of scissors. One of them just has a line, and one has like a satin stitch or an E-stitch on it, okay? These are the 3 applique colors. And the machine then knows these are applique pieces, okay? So the first one is called applique material, and that is the one I want. And you can see it says applique material here now. So I looked up here, and I knew my very first step on this particular design is my placement line. The second step is going to be the tack down line. The third step was my little satin stitch. And then the fourth step is the lettering. Okay. So what I do then is I put my PES file in, and sometimes I need the thread chart, you know, to kind of help me with what I'm looking for. So I can just go through and pick out all of the placement lines. So if I had 6 placement lines in this design, I could do all of them at the same time. I choose the one I want. I go down here at the bottom, and I choose the special color applique material. And the reason I do that is that the scan and cut looks for that color, and then it will say, oh, I need to cut that. Okay, so this is so easy to do. And like I said, this works on the CM650s on PES. So like all the DX models it works on, but the CM650 was the first one it did. And it's so fast, because all I had to do was go in to my machine, change the color real quick, click OK, and then you have to save it. So if you don't save it back to your stick, the color won't change. So now I'm ready to hit memory right here. and I'm going to put it back to the stick. So it is going to produce a second file. So there is a PES file on there, and there is another file from the machine with that changed color. Okay. So does everybody need to have me do that one more time so you can see it? So I had my, let's back up. We'll start again just so you can see it one more time. Okay. So here's my PES file. I'm going to go get it off my stick, and it's on my USB. Here's my little, sorry. Here's my little Future Superstar, and I'm going to hit set, just like I'm going to sew it. On the edit screen, I'm going to go choose the color key. This is the color key, the one that usually has a spool and like a little 4 colors on it, okay? And on this particular design, I know that you can scroll through these by touching these. The first one is my placement line. You put it a little higher. Second one is my tack down line. The third one is the little satin stitch. Okay. So I know the first one is the one that I want to cut because I want to cut my placement line. I'm going to go down here to the bottom. So I've got that one chosen. I'm going to go down here at the bottom, and I'm going to click the little color that has the scissors on it. And that's called applique material. It's going to come up here. Oops, can't get it to go. There we go. It says applique material. That's the one I want. I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to hit memory or save. Some of them just have like a little pocket with an arrow. So it depends on your machine, which one you have. And I'm going to save it back to my stick. Okay. So that was then changed. I changed it and I saved it with the changed color of that. Okay. So that's all you have to do on the sewing machine. So now I'm ready to cut. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and take that same stick. I'm going to go back and just go back to the beginning, and I'm just going to take my stick out. So I've got my stick. So this is where my design is. Okay. And I'm going to show you a couple ways to do this today off of a PES. This is just one way. Because if some of you don't have brother machines, you can't do this with any other machine because of that color thing. Okay. So you have to use, I'm going to move my camera down here so we can get to the scan and cut. If you have another machine, I'm going to show you another way in the machine to use a PES file. So even if you're not sewing with the PES file, you can still cut with a PES file. Okay. All right. So I'm going to try to get above this so you can see the screen fairly well. It's hard with the camera, with the scan and cut, because there's always a little bit of a glare on the screen. So give me a second here to get this adjusted so you can see it. And I can get a little closer, I think, now. Get a little closer, and then I have to kind of be above it so that you don't get a glare. There you go. That's better. Okay. So I'm going to plug my USB into my scan and cut because I saved that. Oops. My scan and cut went to sleep. Wake it up. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to get this here. Okay. So now I have to retrieve my data. So I'm going to hit retrieve data from my stick. Okay. Now, just so you know, depending on the machine you have, most of the machines will put that, that design I saved on my Luminaire, will put it in a little folder called B Pocket, just so you know. So if you're looking for your design, if I go down here, these are all the different things that are on my stick. And then here's my PES. But remember, I told you this was the original PES file down here. Okay. So that one does not have the color change in it. When I saved it from my machine, it put it in this B Pocket. So I'm going to click on the B Pocket folder. And what it does is, and it's also different depending on the machine you have, if it makes it a PHX file or a PHC file. So anytime you save in the machine, like save it back to a stick, it comes out of the machine as either PHX on some of the newer machines or PHC on some of the older ones. Okay. This machine will read both of those files as well. Okay. And that's what so I'd have it twice here because I saved it 2 times. Okay. So this machine will also read those files because it's a sewing file. Okay. So, because these machines, they're made by the same company and they talk to each other. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to touch this, and there's two buttons here. Okay. This one is going to actually cut directly from the PES file. So we're going to talk about that one in a minute. This one is looking for that applique line we made, that placement line that we just changed the color of. This is the applique button. So I'm going to touch this button and look what's going to show up. I'm going to touch this and look, there's the little star. So it found that color that I changed it to, and it made my cutting file. So the cutting file's right there. And all I had to do was stick the stick into my machine, bring it up, change the color, and then pop it in here. And here it is. So see how easy that is? So if you don't have any SVG, there's a lot of designs that do not have SVG files with them. So I can hear my camera's loose, so I need to tighten this up so it won't come off. There's a lot of companies that don't put SVG files with their embroidery files. So you can do any embroidery file this way. Okay. So I think it's really cool. So there's my little cut file. So let's say I have a Viking machine and I don't have a brother or baby lock machine to change the color in the machine of my PES. Well, there's a way we can get around that. Okay. So let's go back. I'm just going to hit the home button on here. And remember, we have that PES file. So this machine reads PES files. Okay. Remember the ones that you buy like on Amazon, the CM350s, which were the mass market machines, or some of the new DX models, do not read PES files. So it's the dealer models only that read PES files. So that's an important thing. So if you want to be able to use PES files to cut, you have to have a dealer model. Okay. So this machine, I'm going to go retrieve my data. This is the SDX 230D. So this is one of the little bit older ones. And then there's the new 300 series machines. There's a 225, a 230D. And then there's also the new ones, the new 325 and the 330Ds. Okay. So I'm going to go get that design again, but this time we're going to scroll down to the bottom of my stick. I'm in the stick. And I'm going to go find here's that PES file. So it says right on the top, it's a PES file. Okay. So let's say we have a Viking machine. We can't change the color, but we do have the PES file on the CD that all the designs came on. Okay. Then it will actually read the stitch file. Okay. So this button is actually the stitch file button. Okay. So if I touch the little daisy, it's going to come up and say my whole design. So it's reading the whole design this time, not just the applique. So we'll fix that in a minute. I'm just going to bring it up. I'm going to leave it the regular size. Okay. Now, depending on the digitizer, you may have to make your applique pieces just a hair bigger. Okay. I personally digitize this. So I always make my satin stitches that cover the applique. I have them pushed inward a little bit so that I know for sure that they're going to cover well. So I don't have to change the size. So when I do my own, I know I don't have to change the size. Sometimes I have to bring up the size just a little bit, and I'll show you that when we get to this next step. Okay. All right. So when it's reading the PES, it reads it a couple different ways. The first one, it's reading it that it's like tracing the inside and the outside of the lines. The second one, it's just tracing the outside. Okay, so that one might work, but the outside, it's doing the outside of a satin stitch. So it's actually going to be a little bit too big. Okay, so the next one, it's actually the stitches. I don't know if you can see it very well, but it looks like a stitch up here. So this one actually is reading the stitches on the design. So this is like the whole stitch file right here. So if I touch that and click OK, that's the one I want to use. I want to be able to get into pieces. There's pieces in there. Remember, we had the placement line, the tack down line, the satin stitch, and the letters. Okay, I want to be able to get into all of those things separately. So see the little button here that's blue? That means that the machine has grouped it. Well, I don't want it grouped. I want to be able to get into all the different pieces. So I'm going to touch that little button and ungroup it. And then I'm going to hit set. I'm just going to leave everything the normal size. Okay. So now up here, it's reading the stitch file. Okay. So it literally will cut the stitch file. Well, I only need that outline. So I'm going to touch this. And if I bring this down, let's see if I can get parts of it to come away. Oh, okay. So there's the letters. So I was able to touch that, and I'll show you another way to get it. Sometimes it's hard to get a hold of. I don't have one of the sticks here. Let's see if I got a stylus here somewhere. Sometimes it's hard with my finger to get things to work. Oh, here we go. Okay. So I grabbed this part, and I was able to get a hold of the letters. Well, we don't need the letters. We just want the star. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to hit edit. And then there's a little trash can there, so I can get rid of that part. I don't need that part. Okay. Now this part probably is the satin stitches around the outside edge. See how it's a little thicker looking. Okay. Well, I don't need that either. So I'm going to hit object edit. Whoops. Sorry. It's right here, the trash can. And okay. So we don't need that either. Now remember, we had a placement line and a tack down line. So the tack down line is going to be on top of the placement line. So I'm going to pull that one out. And that one I don't need either. It's actually slightly smaller than this one. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that one also. So see how I just pulled that part? Now there's just that one piece. That's the part that it's going to cut. Okay. So yes, you can just do it this way. I will tell you, it literally cuts the stitch file. Okay. So a lot of digitizing programs have a like a tie-in and a tie-off at the beginning and at the end of a file. So it will cut that. So like it might do a cut that it would do like it did a tie-off, and then it would cut, and then go around, and then it would do the little tie-off again at the end. So I don't use this method as often. I find that the cutting is much more precise if I change the color in the machine. It seems like it doesn't read those little tie-ins and stuff as bad. And this is the way you would do it if you don't have a brother or baby lock machine to change the color. Okay, so and there's other ways to do this, but this is the way I've been doing it for a long time because we didn't have some other options. There are some new options available with the new machines now. So that is the way you would just use the PES file and get that cut file. Okay, so let's just review that really quickly again. Go back and get my PES file off my stick. This one, remember, was the original PES. It's down here at the bottom. Okay, here it shows PES. I'm going to hit the flower. This is the stitches button. So I'm going to click that and OK. And now I want to use the one that has all the stitches. It's this third one. Okay, so I'm going to use that button and click OK. And remember, it's grouped when it comes in, and I want to ungroup it so I can get to each of the pieces. Going to hit set. And then I can go in here and I can grab the pieces of this. So let's see if we can get the letters again. There's the letters. So we don't need those letters. Edit. And I'll hit the trash can. Okay. And then we don't need that satin stitch on top of the little star. So I'm going to hit the little trash can and get rid of that. And then the next one's going to be that tack down line. We don't need that either. I'm just going to hit the little trash can and OK. So then I'm just down to the last placement line. OK. So this is an easier design. It doesn't have too many layers. So you can imagine if you're doing this in this method that has like 6 appliques, it would take a little while to get through all of those layers to find the lines you want. So that's why changing the colors in the machine makes it so easy, because let me show you then the difference. So here's that same little piece. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save the we'll save this in the machine. I'm going to save it down to the machine so we can actually cut from that one, so you can see that you can cut from either one. So I'm just going to save it in the machine. Takes a second for it to do it. Okay, so it's number 4. Remind me it's number 4, okay, in this machine. This is the store machine. So, all right, so then let's go back and find that other one. Remember the one we changed the color. So this one's a lot easier to determine what you need to cut. So I'm going to go back to my stick and my machine, put it in that folder called B Pocket. So I'm going to click B Pocket. And I'm going to click one of these. These are both, I did 2 of them, so it doesn't matter which one I click. Then we're back at that same screen. So this time, instead of choosing the stitch one, I'm going to do the applique one because it's going to find that color. So I'm going to click that button. And then what would show up if I had multiple appliques in this design? Let's say I had 6. There would be these little boxes over here that would say A, B, C, D, E, F. And it would be all the different appliques that I had chosen and made in the machine. So that makes it really easy to find them. So see how easy that would be, maybe easier than doing the other method. But if you don't have a brother and baby lock machine, you can still use the PES method. Okay, so here's the one we want. We want this one. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. We're going to cut this one first. We're going to talk about what you need for cutting next. So this one is 2 by 2. I have digitized this so I know that it's going to be big enough at the actual size. If for some reason I'll show you where you can change the size. You can also change the number here. Okay, so if you want to do 2 or 4 or 6 of them, you can do that here. Okay, but let's hit set right now. I'm going to leave the size the same. If you need to choose a larger size, it's under edit. Okay, object edit. And then this button right here, the first one, is going to be where I hit where the size is. Generally, when I am choosing like I need a good design or something like that, I usually click one of these buttons and it takes it up together 2 times. I just add just a little teeny bit of size to it, and that usually takes care of it. In my case, I know it's going to be big enough the way it is because I digitized this one myself. Okay, so I usually just hit these little buttons 2 times if I'm doing another designer that I don't know for sure. Okay, all right, so we'll leave it at the 2 by 2 for the size. Now, the one thing about this little star, it is almost symmetrical, but not quite. So when I cut fabric with the fabric down on the mat. So we're going to be cutting from the back. So I do need to turn it over. So this button here with the 2 little arrows pointing at each other is the mirror button. So it's going to mirror it and turn it over so that I can put my fabric side down. Okay, so I just mirrored it. So on appliques, you do need to mirror them. I cut with the fabric down on the mat. Every now and then there's some fabrics I have to cut right side up, but most of them I cut face down. Okay, so then you need to mirror it so that it's going to fit in your applique correctly. So I'm going to click OK. So I'm ready to cut this. Okay, now let's talk about how to cut these appliques. I have a piece of fabric cut for my applique. I'm going to use this little yellow polka dots. Okay, and on the back of the fabric, the one thing about cutting the fabric with the scan and cut is you do need to have some sort of a bonding agent that is going to stabilize your fabric, and then it also gives you something to attach it to your material that you're putting it on. So you need to have something on the back. So what I have found that works the very best, and I've tried a lot of different ones of these, I use Heat and Bond Light. So this is called Heat and Bond Light. Okay, it's light. This can be sewn through. So I am going to be sewing through this because we're going to applique it onto the little shirt or whatever. Okay, so I would use Heat and Bond Light. If I'm doing a permanent bond without sewing, I would use Heat and Bond Ultra Hold. So I do Heat and Bond Ultra Hold on, I like there's a gal that does these really cool designs that are all permanent bond applique, and so they're raw edge, and you just do permanent bond. So I use this quite a bit also, but you don't want to sew through this because your machine will not like it. Okay, so what you're going to sew through is your heat and bond light. So that is what's on the back of this little piece of fabric. I have ironed it on. Okay, the thing I like about heat and bond light is that it bonds very strongly into the fabric. It adheres into the fibers of the fabric, and it stays on. And there are a lot of other materials out there that I have tried that do not work well. So I would tell you, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. The heat and bond light works really well. Okay. So I have several pieces here. So that's one of the things. Okay. So we've got our little piece of fabric with our heat and bond light on the back. So let's talk about the mats. So I've got 2 mats here. I'm going to pull the, hopefully you can see these a little bit. I'll pull this back a little bit. Okay, so I have 2 mats here. This is the low tack mat that came with your machine with a special sheet on it called a high tack adhesive sheet. This is the old way that we were doing fabric. This still works just fine, okay? But they have now developed, so I have both of them here. I still use this one, and I have it marked as fabric. This is my low tack mat. I just marked it fabric, and I have that really, really sticky sheet on here. So it's on here, and you can't really see it. I stuck it on today, but it's really sticky. Okay. This mat comes with your machine, and then you can get these high tack adhesive sheets separately. Okay. But most of the machines now come with the new fabric mat. And this mat is the gold one, and most of the machines come with this now. This mat is super sticky, so you don't have to put the sheets on. Okay, so I'm going to use this one today to cut. I have this one. I still use some of these because I have some of the sheets, and I just use them, you know, if I need a new mat. So I've got them both here. Some of you may have had an older machine that you had this mat with the high tack adhesive sheet on it. But we're going to use this new fabric mat today, and this gold one. Okay, this is only available for the DX model machines. Right, so I'm going to take this off now. Be very careful because they are very, very sticky. So don't get any paper or anything that you don't want permanently stuck near it. Ask Jan how she knows about that. So I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to turn it with the fabric down, and I'm just going to put it on the mat somewhere. Okay, like that. And I have my favorite little tool here. So let's see if I can tip the camera down a little bit. I have my favorite little tool here, my brayer. I love this. And I'm just going to take my brayer and go over that fabric a couple times to make sure that it's well stuck to my mat. It is face down. I leave the paper on the heat and bond if I can. It will work without it, but the bottom of the blade has a tendency to grab a little bit because it's a little on the shiny side. So I try to leave the paper on. The paper sometimes gets a little dry, and then it will it'll come off. So if it comes off, it's okay. You can still use it. Okay. So there's my fabric on my mat. So I'm going to go ahead and load this mat. I'm going to lay my hands along the mat. I'm going to bump up against the rollers here, and then I'm going to reach up here, and I'm going to hit the mat load button, and I'm going to let it go in, feed in. Okay. All right, so there's our mat. We got the fabric on there. We got our heat and bond on the back of our fabric. And then I'm going to talk to you about blades. So normally when I cut fabric with a bonding agent on it, with the black holder and the standard auto blade. So this is the auto blade holder and the auto blade. Okay. However, when I cut fabric, when you cut fabric at home with scissors, do you have a special pair of scissors that is just for fabric? I have one of these, the same blade holder and blade that's only for fabric. And I bought a separate one. So I had it, and I marked it F for fabric. And then and this is the one I use for all my fabric. So this blade is actually quite old. I got it with my original DX model machine, and I only cut fabric with it. Okay, so that's something that you might want to consider if you cut a fair amount of fabric. This blade here, then I cut everything else with my paper, my vinyls, anything like that. I use this one for that, and then the one marked F I just use for fabric. Oh, I could have turned off my banner. Oh well, we'll turn off the banner now. There we go. Got excited about talking about scanning kit. Okay, so here's my fabric blade. I'm going to put that in the machine. Hopefully, there we go. All right, so we got that in the machine. We got our fabric on here, but now the machine needs to know where the fabric is. We also mirrored it. Remember, we mirrored it. So I'm going to hit OK up here on the screen. And we need to tell the machine where the fabric is. So guess what? We can scan here too. So this has a scanner in it. So I'm going to touch this little scanning button, and it's going to scan what's on my mat. So then we can tell the machine will know where that piece of fabric is. I just stuck it on randomly. I usually try to keep it straight as I can, but it doesn't have to be. And you could have like a whole piece of fabric on the whole mat if you wanted to, and do a whole bunch of these at the same time. All right, so if we look up here at the screen now, here's that piece of fabric, the scan of it, and here's my design. So see, the design's kind of hanging off the edge. Well, that's not going to work. So we need to pull that design down onto my little piece of fabric so we know it's going to cut right on that piece of fabric. We've already mirrored it. We know it's ready to go. Okay, so there I have pulled it down onto my scan, and I'm ready to hit OK over here. So we're going to do that, and now I'm ready to cut. So I'm going to please select, I would like to cut. And then I'm going to look at my settings. So it says it'll take about 1 minute. I'm going to hit the little wrench to look at my settings. My cut speed. The cut speed on these DX models is a little high. They made it 5, so it's a little bit fast. I would tell you to cut it around 3, especially for fabric. Oh, second here, I'm not seeing my comments. Okay. And the cut pressure is on auto. That means that the auto blade over here is going to adjust itself. So I don't have to deal with that. Okay. So that works out pretty well for fabric. And the rest of these we don't need to worry about. I want this to be on auto. And then the half cut, which is used for vinyls, needs to be off because I want this to cut all the way through. So that's the 2 settings I always check. Okay. So I'm going to hit OK. Says it's going to be an auto speed of 3 and the half cut is off. Okay. Now, when I was using my older machine that I had to set my own blade, and I know some of you still have an older machine, so the blade setting on the standard blade for the older machines, the blue standard blades for fabric is normally somewhere the depth is 4 or 5. And the pressure would be at 4 or 5, depending on the fabric you're choosing. So I would then have done a test cut. I would have chosen one of those settings, and then I would use a test cut. But I'm pretty certain this is going to cut fine, so I'm not going to test cut today. I'm just going to go for it, and I'm going to hit start. So it's going to cut my little star here. So we're cutting from the design that I changed the color in the machine first, and then we'll go back and do the other one, okay? All right, so let's see how we did here. Oops, can't get a hold of it. There is a little spatula, but it's underneath the mat, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, so every now and then I will have a little bit of you have some little pieces of thread. So these mats are pretty sticky, so you do have to clean them quite regularly. Get my little spatula here. Sometimes I have trouble getting the hold of the fabric. So they give you this little spatula, and it works really well. So just to kind of get under the edge, and then you can get a hold of your appliques because they're pretty tight on there. There we go. So here's my little star. So this is the back of it. I'm going to turn it over. So there's my little star. Okay, and this was cut from my design that I changed the color on. Okay, so let's cut the one from the, I'm going to put this one over here, and we're going to cut the other one in pink just so you can see the difference in them. So I have some pink fabric here too with polka dots on it. So we'll use this one for the other one. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to lay this face down. So let's cut from the one that we use the actual PES file. And I'm going to use my little brayer here. Make sure it's on there well. Okay. So I'm going to go back up here. So get the glare off of the screen for you. I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to hit the house button because I want to go back and get that other design. Now that one I saved in the machine. So I'm going to hit retrieve data. I'm going to hit the machine button. And it was number 4. So here's number 4. I'm going to click on that one. Now this one we had not mirrored it yet. So we do need to mirror this one. So I'm going to select it by touching it, edit, object edit, and then I'm going to hit the mirror button right here. Okay. And okay. So, and it's just very slightly different on one side than the other. So it's almost symmetrical, but not quite. But, oh gosh, we still have this thing in here. Well, that's not what we got on the mat anymore. So if we hit okay, we can get back to that screen where we can scan again. So now I'm going to scan again, and it's going to scan my pink piece of fabric that I have on the machine now. This one also has the heat and bond light on the back. And now when it comes up on the screen, it's going to show me that bigger piece of fabric. So here's that bigger piece of fabric, the pink one. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull my little design. We already mirrored it. I'm going to pull it down onto my fabric, and we'll be economical. So I'll pull it kind of down towards and then one side, so I could probably get another one out of the other side. Okay. Now this is the one that we used the PES file and just pulled all the pieces apart. And this is the placement line. Okay. So let's hit okay. But sometimes when I see these cut, I notice a difference because it literally cuts the tie in and the tie off if that's in the design. So this one may or may not do that because I did this in PE design. So sometimes PE design had a different way of thinking about ties and tie-ins and tie-offs. So I can't remember how this one cuts. So we'll look. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and cut. And I'm going to use the same settings. These settings are fine. We've already set them, and I'm going to hit start. So let's see how this one does. So I'm going to put the camera down so you can see it cut. Let's see if it makes any difference, if you can see any difference in it. Because I can usually tell. Sometimes it'll do like a little. Okay, did you see it do the little jimmy? The little that was a cutoff. Okay, and it did it again at the end. So over here, right over here, it kind of went and then it went around, and then it came back around and it went again. So and literally cut the tie-in and the tie-off as if it were reading it like the sewing machine. This one did not do that. Did you notice that this one just went around and it did not do that? This is when we changed the color. Okay, so let's pull this one off. See if I can get this one off here. My paper came off on this one. Now this one may not have cut because my paper really let go. Sometimes these get dry. Let's try this one again. Sometimes they get dry and the paper wants to loosen up, and then see it didn't want to cut. So we'll cut this one more time. Let's put this back down here. I think we've got enough. I'm going to take the paper off on this one. Okay, so you can see that you can actually cut without the paper on. And then I think there's enough room on here we can get the second one off. So we'll move this, put this back down. Let's try this one again. That happens though if the paper gets caught in the blade, it just kind of then it won't quite, the setting is not quite right. And I want to make sure. Now see, I don't know if you can see, there's a little piece of paper that got down in my blade housing. So I'm just going to check that. I think we're okay. Okay. All right, so let's try this one more time. We're going to go back and make sure that I'm going to scan it again. So let's scan it one more time. I went back a page so I could scan it. Let's get this one up here so we don't. This is a good thing that things like this happen live, right? Then you know that sometimes things like that happen. So the paper does make a difference. So like this one, see how it did? It just kind of pulled it up here, and then it didn't want to cut in that one of those spots. So okay, so now you can see up here that little cut spot. So now I think I can pull this one up and over so that we can still get it in there. Let's see if we can make it work. Otherwise, we got more fabric. I think it'll still work. We'll just make it work. Sometimes I can't get it to move. So if I go to Object Edit, can't remember if there's a move button here or not. Let's see. Some of them one of them has a move button in one spot, but not in the other spot. So I can never remember if this one has the little move arrows. I think it was under, oh, yeah, under Edit. There we go. Because sometimes you just need a little bit of a movement, and if you move it with your finger, sometimes it moves too much. So that way, that was right here next to the trash can, those little arrows. Okay, so that gave me a chance to move it with just a very, very little bit. Okay, all right, so let's try that. So now this one's going to cut without the paper, and I'm going to click OK. And we already scanned, so we know it's okay. I'm going to hit OK. And then please select, we're going to cut. And then we're going to hit start. Let's see what happens here. So I'm going to let you watch this. Now watch it cut at the very beginning. Watch what it does. The other one did not do this. And this is the difference. So watch what it does. Can you see it? It goes, it's going to adjust. And it makes a tiny little movement, and then it goes. And then it's going to make a tiny little movement. Okay. All right. So see, this one did not cut very well, because what it did is it grabbed a hold of that shiny surface. Okay, so this one didn't work very well. So let's try one more. We'll try one more. I like it when things like this happen, because then you can see things like this happen to me too, right? Normally I don't have any trouble, but I do have, this heat and bond has been on these for a while, and it's very dry this time of year, and the paper gets kind of dry. So I have a little more trouble in the winter if things have been sitting very long. So we're going to scan this one. Let's try one more time. You can see it cut one more time. So sometimes I go through a few pieces of fabric when I'm doing this, but you notice the yellow one didn't do this. The paper must have been on there stronger. Can't remember when I did these pink ones. Okay, we'll just give it another little touch. Okay, so let's pull this up. So you can see, I'm going to pull this down to the fabric. Let's pull it into the center a little bit more. There we go. And let's try cutting it one more time, but then you can watch the little difference in the way it cuts, because this one's going to cut and it makes that little movement at the beginning, because that's the tie-in and the tie-off in the PES file. So it's literally reading the PES file. The stitches, in other words. In other words, it's reading the stitches. See if it cuts better this time. Okay, so it did the little jimmy, and then it's going to go around, and then it's going to do that little jimmy at the end again. There we go. See, it did the little, it kind of did a little triangle almost shape. Let's see if this one, oh, this one did much better. Okay, here we go. Look at there. Okay, so sometimes when it does that kind of thing over here on this little corner, it's a little bit flat on that tip. I don't know if you can see it very well on the camera, but that sometimes it will slightly change the shape of it. So if you look at this tip, this is the same tip over here. See how much pointier the yellow one is? Because it didn't do that little tie-in and tie-off. So there will be a slight difference in the way these cut if you're using just the PES stitch file instead of changing the color. Okay, so that's one of the things I wanted to show you. I'm sorry it took me a couple tries to get it to cut, but it was my fault because I didn't check my fabric well enough. Okay, all right, so now when I'm ready to do my applique, let's finish this so you know what you have to do. So over here next to me, hopefully you can see this if I stretch this out a little bit. Okay, over here next to me is my little I've got a little iron. I love this little iron. These are on our website too. These are wonderful for applique in the hoop because see, it's so small, it'll fit in even the 4x4 hoop. So I use this all the time. I have my hoop. Here's my hoop that I stitched part of that out. So here's my future superstar. Here's just the outline. That's a placement line. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little star. And this one, just so you know, it's a little, you have to kind of check to make sure you get it rotated the right direction. So I think I got it the first time, amazing as that is. So I'm going to look to make sure that I have my little piece of fabric, has that heat and bond on the back, right inside my little placement line. Then I'm going to take my little iron, I've already got it heated up, and I'm just going to put this down. Got a little ironing mat under here. Just going to put this down and adhere that to the, oops, got my iron cord stuck here. I'm going to adhere that to my fabric. And so now I'm ready to go in and put this back in the machine and finish the satin stitches. So I see I have my little design in there, and then if something doesn't look quite right, like it could have gone maybe this way just a little bit. If you heat it up a little bit with your iron again, then you can adjust it a little bit. Just touch it with the iron, and sometimes you just need to take your finger and just scooch it a little bit. That looks better. Okay, so I just scooched it a little bit. And now it's ready to be satin stitched. Now when my satin stitches are going to be mostly inside, so I know it's going to catch it fine. And normally what I do, remember there's also a tack down line often on an applique. I often, with this, since it's all attached here, I often skip that tack down line. So I don't have to, you don't have to sew that out when you have adhered this to your fabric. Okay, so there's my little star that I cut out. Now this one I cut out from doing the changing the color, and that is my preferred method. I actually use that more often than I use SVG files because I find it so easy, and then I can cut and sew from the same file. And I can even sew, I can still sew from that PHX or PHC that the machine creates. So I usually just cut and sew from the same file. Now this little pink one that we did, here's a little pink one. This one, let's see if I can get it right side up. Okay, I think it's this way. Now see, it was fine. It cut just absolutely fine, and it's going to cover. It would cover up that yellow one just fine. So that one cut absolutely fine. But this little tip over here is just slightly less pointy because it had that extra little stitches in there. Okay, so either way works great. If you are working with, like I said, with like a Viking or some other machine and you have a scan and cut, that's a way you can get around that, and you can still use your PES files because you probably have them when you bought like a design CD. Okay. All right. So are there any questions? So there's my favorite way of cutting appliques from a PES file. I just change the color in my machine and I put it in the scan and cut it out. Okay. So are there any other questions? There's a bunch of people there. All right, so I think Tim's back. So let me see if I can get my camera switched back over here. Just a second. All right. And get my camera. Yep. There we go. All right. Tim is back.
I'm back. Again, thanks for joining us. Another week of Shields Live. I was watching it too. You know, like Jan said, we make mistakes too. Sometimes things don't work exactly the way we want it to. The important thing is don't freak out. We'll help you through it if things go wrong.
You need to leave the boo-boos in.
You got it. That's right. That's right. So again, thanks for coming out or joining us. I'm going to do another giveaway. I like that. We got some, we went through a lot of different things. So we got more stuff to give away. So
we're going to do that next week too?
We'll do it again next week. So like, share, and comment. We really appreciate you helping getting the word out about us, keeping us busy. We are staying very busy. Again, look at the different promotions, gift guides. Jan was just talking a little bit ago that she didn't have, 4, 5, 6, 7 machines already. She would really take advantage of that Stellaire because it's got a really good deal with it.
Nice
little package deal with it. So next week, I think we're
I think we're going to do surgery.
I think we're going to do surgeries. All right. Notice
Yeah.
how I had to make sure that was okay. But we're going to talk about the baby lock surgeries. They are, to me, they are the best surgeries on the market. Self-threading, automatic tensions, things like that. So join us. We'll do a little demonstration on a couple of different surgeries that they have. And again, like, comment, and share so that we can put you in the drawing. And we'll do it again next week. So thanks for stopping by. Have a great week.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.